Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Overfilled the podcast. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube or by video, you can see me, Jason Jedlicka. You can see Dr. Jamie Kuzner, who always joins me. And you see a gap between us there, Dr. Messer. We do have real clinic lives, and sometimes we need to see patients. And so we're seeing a patient with a real problem right now, and she'll be with us momentarily. But again, welcome to this episode. Jamie, we've got a lot of variety of things to discuss today.
Right.
We're going to go through, we've got some Overfilled to talk about. We've got some videos that were submitted both for contact lens residency, for mentors, and then for a case that will lead into our discussion for today. So I guess I'm starting off with my Overfilled. So last week I had the wonderful opportunity to have Jamie be at my office for a day. As many of you know who've been through school in the last, 10 years or so, there's the program called the Staple Workshop that you may have participated in, where the companies bring in their soft toric or presbyopia lenses, you fit some patients, you get a good learning experience. Well, last week at IU on Thursday was our Staple Toric, and our guest speaker was Jamie.
Yay.
So not only do we get to have dinner the night before and hang out with the family and Ursula and Craig, for those of you who know Ursula and Craig, which was a great time that night. We got to hang out that day and see patients together. And so we rolled out the red carpet in Bloomington. We gave Jamie and her family the best weather we possibly could.
Yeah, it was so fun, and I loved coming back to Bloomington. And of course, as soon as I saw Jason, it's like I'm saying hi to all the other faculty, and Jason's like, okay, I just realized something, and you need to come in my office right now, and I need to show you something about scleral shape. And I just thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
And he was so geeking out about it. So then I just missed that, It's like, oh my gosh, I just discovered something amazing. Come in here right now and I need to show you. And then we're chatting about it. And then I just tell the other people watching us, I'm like, this is just kind of how our conversations go. Like,
yeah.
Hi, nice to see you. Oh my gosh, have you realized this about the superior sclera? I can't believe
that is the geek in us, right?
But no, it was a super great time. So I loved being back there. So I was happy, and hopefully I can come back again for another Staple workshop.
Oh, you will, because we didn't get a chance to play bubble hockey.
I know.
And we were all disappointed. No one more so than Olivia, your daughter.
I know.
So that was my Overfilled, was getting to have you here for a few days in Bloomington and to see Colin and the girls. So anyway, good times. So you have an Overfilled, but we're going to wait with that for a little bit because it ties into our topic for today. We've got some other housekeeping to take care of first. We did get a video sent to us by a former contact lens resident, which we talked about residency a few weeks back, and we didn't get a chance to share this one at the time. So we're going to do the video. So again, for those of you who are completing a residency or about to go into a residency, this is just some good practical advice from someone who has recently completed her residency. So this is Emily Gottschalk. Emily, I should know this. I believe she had MCO last year. Am I right about that?
So she was at MCO, which is my alma mater.
Correct. Okay.
And now she's practicing in New York.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring Emily on, and we'll get her advice to those about to begin their residency.
Maybe. You might find out that you love teaching or research or lecturing. Congratulations to all the residents who matched. You're in for such an exciting year. I did my cornea and contact lens residency at the Michigan College of Optometry and finished in 2023. And my biggest advice to new residents is to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way during residency. You might find out that you love teaching or research or lecturing a lot more than you expected. And I think it's really important to connect with the contact lens community at large. It's really one of the biggest benefits from residency. You have the opportunity to build an amazing network with all of your co-residents who end up practicing all over Canada and the US. And I encourage you to apply to all the scholarships and travel grants that you'll have available to you that allow you to attend conferences where you can meet experts in the field who can really have a big impact on your career. It's going to be a really fun year. You only have 1 year, so make the most of it.
And I think Emily did a great job during her residency too. I saw her at so many conferences. I did not know her before her residency, but we just connected because, hey, you're at my alma mater. And I saw her a ton. And now she's doing great at her position in New York. And I see on Instagram and her social media, she posts and she has a lot of really big name people coming to visit her at her clinic. And she's doing some lecturing. So she really took advantage of it. So listen to Emily. Because she's definitely one of the rising stars coming up, and she used that year to her advantage. So
yeah, I totally agree. Last year about this time, we invited several contact lens residents to speak at our Contact Lens Society of America meeting. And I got a handful of people replied and said, I'd love to speak. And Emily was one of them. And she did a great job. And that's just an example, again, of saying yes. And, coming to that conference, she got to give a 1-hour lecture. She got to be on a panel, got paid a little bit, not a lot. But more importantly, she probably met a lot of people that she now has a connection with. And so again, saying yes, it has benefits in the moment, it has benefits long term. So I liked what she said about trying different things and finding what you have a passion for or what you're good at, because a lot of times we don't know that until we try it and realize, hey, kind of like that. I feel like I'm kind of good at that. Or people say, hey, you did a great job with that. You should do that more. And then you find your niche. So again, try it all, see what you're good at, see what you like best.
Perfect. And then we also had a shout out for mentors. So last week or last episode, we talked about our mentors. We gave each of them a shout out. And we did have a submission for mentors that we're going to share as well. Even though I do think that she broke the rule of shouting out one of the three of us. So
she definitely broke the rule.
She broke the rule, but we'll still show it too.
And I thought you were going to edit out the first part, but I guess
I'm not going to edit it out. This is raw. This is raw content. This is what it is, right?
All right, here we go.
Here, let me make sure we start it from the beginning here.
I know. I should have done. Okay, here we go.
Here, let me make it a little louder.
Good call.
Okay. It's a little quiet. Okay, let's try it now.
Hi, Overfilled Podcast. I'm Sam Schlesman. I'm the current contact lens resident at Nova Southeastern. And I have two mentors I'd like to shout out. First, of course, being Dr. Jason Jedlicka. I knew going into school that I was interested in contact lenses, but he really pushed me and got me excited about specialty contact lenses. And at Indiana, I was really able to first recognize how loyal contact lens patients are, and especially Dr. Jedlicka's patients. So seeing that really motivated me to keep working hard to be a really good contact lens fitter. So hopefully one day I would have patients that loyal to me. And I also wanted to say thank you so much for pushing me to do a residency and to do it for the right reasons, not just to become better at fitting contacts, but to be a better leader in general. And I really feel like through residency, I've definitely found a place in the contact lens world. So thank you so much for giving me that little push towards residency. I'm so grateful for your guidance at Indiana and now throughout residency as well. It's so nice to still stay in touch and see you at meetings. And second, I had to mention Dr. Andrea Janoff, who's my coordinator here at Nova. And she's really taught me so much about providing the best patient care in contact lenses. I really feel like I learn something new each day that I spend with her in clinic, which is amazing. And she's been such a great mentor and role model for us contact lens residents here. She's really pushed me to be the best that I can be. And she's also been really helpful outside of clinic. Now that I'm writing more papers and making presentations, she's really guided me on what good publishable quality looks like. And now I really feel like I'm equipped to start publishing things on my own in the future. So that's great. So thank you so much, Dr. Jedlicka. and Dr. Janoff for being such amazing mentors.
Oh, that was great.
That was, and I loved the IU sign in the background.
I know, I saw that.
Have to get the plug in for the school. And yeah, I mean, okay, so that was great. Sam was one of those students who you knew she had the potential, but there's a lot of students who have the potential to do residency that don't. And I think she was kind of on the fence about it and ended up going for it. And obviously now she realizes the benefit there. So that's awesome. But she also mentioned Dr. Janoff. And again, Andrea is one of those leaders in our contact lens field as an educator. She's really involved with AOCLE, the Association of Contact Lens Educators, and just been doing it for a long time and doing it really well. And one of those all-time greats when it comes to contact lenses. So it was nice that she got the shout out as well from Sam.
Wonderful. And we also had a really super cool case submission. So we're going to share our case submission, and that leads into my Overfilled that I've been working on the last couple weeks. And then hopefully as soon as Brooke's back from her ulcer patient, she'll join us too and show us the Overfilled.
No, I hope she doesn't miss this whole episode.
Brooke is going to run in here and be so mad. No, I'm just joking. She won't be.
So do you want to start off and talk about your case, or what? How do you want to do this, Jamie?
Let's talk about my case. So if you want to show it, there we go.
There's your case.
There is my case. So I had a patient that was referred to me from one of my colleagues who fits scleral lenses about an hour away from me. And she texted me saying, hey, I got this patient. She really wants to try scleral lenses again. She tried them in the past, had a really bad success or really bad fogging issues. So the patient was having issues where every single hour she had to take her lens out and clean it. Okay. It got to the point where she dropped out of sclerals, went to a soft contact lens. This is an RK patient. So she was seeing so poorly that she actually had to start turning down jobs. Okay. So she's a college teacher that goes to a lot of universities. She had to start turning down night jobs. So it truly affected her life. It affected her income. And she got this amazing opportunity to go over to the UK. And she just said, you know what, I want to be able to see when I go over there. I want a scleral. And by the way, I'm leaving in about 3 weeks. So
no pressure.
No pressure. So my colleague just said, I could try this, but I'm going to send you up to my friend, Jamie. So she comes up here to Rochester and I do an eaglet scan on her. Oh, there's Brooke. Hey, Brooke. I do an eaglet scan on her. And yes, if you can look at this, like no wonder she was having issues with fogging. Okay. So as soon as she said she had issues with fogging, I already knew, the lens wasn't going to be aligned to her haptic. She was probably getting, midday fogging. So when I did an eaglet on her, it was amazing. Look at that. She's got 400 microns of Bielevation needed. So yes, I'm sure whatever lens that she was fit in 3-4 years ago was not going to be successful. It doesn't matter like how great the fitter was. This was just an eye that needed the technology that came out, which is Bielevation. So the cool thing is I have an eaglet, but I still use a diagnostic lens. I put that diagnostic lens on her, and immediately she's like, this is great. It's already a lot more comfortable than the many lenses I tried years ago. And so I ordered the lens. I actually did not order it with this, Steep 3, Steep 8. I'm still getting good at my eaglet scans, but I'm not that good. So I just ordered her like a Steep 3 periphery, 400 microns of Bielevation, and I dispensed that lens. It came in like 3 days before she left the country, dispensed it. She went over there. She came back. She's like, I love this lens. I'm super happy. I didn't have to clean it out the whole time. And now she's working on trying to get some of those night jobs back for the night teaching. And that was just a great experience for me. And so she called me the wizard. Nice. She came back and she's like, I'm so happy I came up here to see the contact lens wizard because now I have a lens and I can see and I can start teaching again. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we realize sometimes, like, especially with RK patients, she was seeing 20/30 with her soft lens, but that fluctuation in the nighttime glare, and it really got her down. Can you imagine having to turn down what you love teaching because you can't see? because of your RK. So now she's kind of reclaiming a lot of things in her life. And that was really cool that it was a first lens success with the Bielevation when she had tried for years. So that was my Overfilled. So cool lady. Yeah. Any comments on this before we go to the case?
Well, yeah. So I want to ask you. So for those of you who are listening to this but can't see it, you need to go on YouTube or wherever you can see the video so you can look at the map, because I'm going to tell Jamie to explain to us when she looks at that map why you would think this person would need a Bielevation, and why do you think they had fogging before with their old lens?
So I already knew she would need a Bielevation just listening to her before I even put a lens on. I could just tell. But when you look at it, and I didn't post the screenshots of the actual the Bielevation map as well. So what I like to do is I like to set my ring diameter for where the vaulting chamber is. And I noticed that she had like over 300 microns of elevation difference in that vaulting chamber area. So right away, and Bielevation is getting so darn good that even when I have my ring diameter set at that vaulting chamber, if I'm seeing like 150, I'm putting it in there to get better alignment. So basically I'm looking at the elevation differences, and in that vaulting chamber, so she ended up with 400 microns of difference. Okay. So looking at it there and then moving that ring diameter all the way to the full diameter of the lens, which on this eaglet scan, a little funny. Also, she was wearing a soft toric lens coming in. You know, ideally we'd like them to not be wearing any contacts coming in before we do an eaglet. I just like to get some data out there just to get a good starting point. So you kind of take some of the data. It still measured some toricity in the sclera. But when I actually put that lens on the diagnostic, which has a standard APS all the way around, it looked pretty uniform besides it just being a little flat. So I just said, let's just keep it simple to start out with. And I ordered it. It's funny because I actually ordered a second lens while she was in the UK that had more of a toric APS. And when she came in, she was so happy with her first lens. I had her put on the second lens and she's like, I don't like this one. She's like, give me the first one back. And I said, fine. And sometimes I feel like we almost create problems that aren't there, right? Like you're trying to chase like perfection. Let me just make it like three steps steeper in the vertical. I think because I was so worried that she'd have midday fogging. Again, I was like, you know what? There's a little trickle in here. I really want her to be happy. Let me just, add a little more toricity here. I ordered the lens and then I put it on when she came back from the UK and she was like, I like my other one better.
Yeah. I mean, especially nowadays with Bielevation and then now doing the quad specific, SEGs with Echo designs, you can kind of lose yourself in like chasing a problem that's not there for the patient. They're like, I was happy like 3 lenses ago. Like, why am I
right?
And but it's just, we want that perfect. So I had to pump the brakes on myself yesterday too. Cause I was like, I wanted to make it a better looking Echo because the chamber like wasn't exactly spherical around the limbus. And, but he's like, I don't fog anymore. And I'm like, but your chamber is not perfect. Yes. So I pumped the brakes. I didn't order a lens. He's going to come back in a couple weeks. But all those customizations, like you can keep chasing in circles.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that in the moment is a teaser for next week's episode where we're going to talk about that very topic, about when to say when and when is, because again, I think like you said, we can literally now make lenses with elevation adjustments to the micron, but to what purpose? Because the eye doesn't stay the same 24/7, and it's changing sometimes by a lot diurnally or by different reasons. And so this is one of those situations again where we have way more capability to make a lens far more specific, but we're fitting it to an eye that's constantly in flux. So at what point is enough? And so we'll talk about that next week too. But we have another case to talk about in this regard, right, Jamie?
Yes. So the other slide here. So this was a submission that we actually had from Dr. Patel. And
this is not his eye.
This is not his eye. Okay, but this is one of his patient's eyes, and he mentioned, especially with pellucid patients, we know that there's such a elevation difference between the superior and inferior just because of the nature of the condition. And he shared this topography with us, which is from a pentagram. And he just said, I know this patient needs bi-elevation, but the question is like, how do I know how much to start with? I mean, first of all, the amazing thing is that he knows that they need bi-elevation because so cool, right? That came out like a couple of years ago. And I love that the first thing that we think of is they're going to need a different sags in the vaulting chamber. That's awesome. Yeah. Instead of putting it into the APS. So there's the case. Otherwise, we don't have a ton of data about the patient besides that they have pellucid. But what do you guys think just looking at some of these scans?
Brooke's getting so close. A little, yeah, I know. Right. It looks like negative. Is it negative? Like in the purple nasal temporal there, are we looking at is it negative 50 roughly, or?
I can't tell. My eyes are not that good that well as that.
It's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Even in the cornea, we've got to be talking about probably close to 300 microns of elevation difference, I would think, between the top of the lower mountain there and the top of the upper mountain versus the purple on the sides. And we know what generally happens when we get beyond the limbus, what happens in the sclera. Most scleras like to be against the rule in shape. So if we're already against the rule in the cornea by hundreds of microns, it's not going to get any better going out onto the sclera.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this one again is because of the nature of this is because your elevated meridian is the vertical. Okay, because your elevated meridian is the vertical. When this patient blinks, so for example, if you had an eye with hundreds of microns of elevation difference in the cornea, but the elevated meridian was horizontal, as the lids blink, it's going to rock up and down with the blink.
Yep, like teeter-totter.
But this one is not going to do that because the vertical is the flat meridian. So it's a different situation. And so let me ask you guys this, because I'm already thinking, so what are you gonna expect when you put a scleral lens on this eye to see if you don't have a bi-elevation?
You might see some temporal decentration. And I guess edge lift, nasal temporal, and some, you kind of see the fogging or the debris pump in. I'm trying to think about the lens with no, I guess if it's just a spherical lens, there wouldn't be any torquing of a rotation of any kind. But
so the first thing I think of is any patient you have that's got this kind of an against the rule eye shape in general is you are going to see inferior blanching no matter what you do.
Sorry.
No, so
I was trying to think ahead too.
What you're saying is totally true, but I'm just like, no matter what you do, whether you put this in a bi-elevation, whether you literally custom fit this thing to the T, the lens is going to blanch inferiorly. So quit trying to kill yourself to fix the inferior blanching part, because it's going to, because the cornea is just it's like sliding down a pole.
Yeah.
There's no stopping it. It's going to rest inferiorly. So that's one thing. Second thing, like you said, is there may be some edge lift. There's going to be probably lens awareness.
Right.
When they blink, because it's going to rub down those loose edges on the sides. Now, what about fogging? I mean,
you aren't going to get as much because you're not getting the debris pumping from the top.
Totally agree. So in this case, the debris might not be the biggest problem. It might be the patient's awareness of the lens at 3 and 9. And again, then when you bring those edges in, if all you did was put a toric haptic on it, they would feel it less. And again, you might actually be able to get by. You can absolutely get by in a case like this with only putting the toricity in the haptic rather than in a bi-elevation, easier than when it's the other way around. Okay. However, how much turicity do you have to put in your haptic on this one?
Right.
It's 600 microns by,
right.
so again, it's massive amounts of difference, and it just doesn't make any sense. But it's fun to contemplate these against the rule scenarios like this, rather than the with the rule, which is probably most patients.
Right.
This one also obviously needs an oblate.
Yep.
Or a flatter base curve with a steeper mid-periphery or reverse geometry design, because when you look at that elevation in the upper right there, right in the middle of the pupil, the little dashed line is right in a valley. I mean, it's a low spot. So you're definitely much more elevated in the mid-periphery than you are in the center. So oblate shaped lens, lots of chamber toricity, probably a little bit of haptic toricity on top of it.
What I would probably do, looking at his HVID, which is 11.7, I would probably just put my oblate by elevation. I'd start with just a 300 micron diagnostic lens, and I would throw it on and look at the fluorescein pattern. I mean, unless you have, Pentacam CSP, something where you can like actually measure all of that, that's great. But if you don't, that's fine too, right? So I would just use my diagnostic lens, put it on, and get a good starting point there, and then bracket. So I would start at 300. It probably needs more if I had to guess, but hard to tell just by looking at just a corneal topography.
Yeah, and you won't be able to fix that inferior blanching probably with the haptic alone, because it'll just keep going down. So you got to get that chamber, that's where you pop the lens up, center it over the cornea, assess that fluorescein pattern under the lens, and that'll help you decide what to do with the chamber, because you can still get it to center relatively well with a good chamber, and then that inferior blanching then you can address it. You just don't want to keep flattening that inferior edge until you get some independent centering. So
and stop flattening the inferior quadrant. I have so many colleagues, friends, even consultants. Yeah, put it in the notebook. Like I'll even have consultants say like, oh, if it's blanching inferiorly, let's flatten that, do a quad and flatten the APS there. And it's like, no, like that's not, it's not,
it's the lens. It's not there.
Right. So
in this
fall
situation,
into that trap.
In this situation, the bi-elevation, by doing a bi-elevation here, one of your benefits is to increase the surface area and the haptic outside of the inferior sector. So actually you say, well, how do I get rid of the inferior blanching? I'd say, well, get it to align better over the rest of the lens surface. And that will soak up a little bit of that extra pressure of the lens in more surface area outside of the inferior, and that will alleviate it. So by actually bringing down the horizontal meridian into contact with the sclera just beyond the limbus, you actually alleviate inferior blanching. You don't have to change inferior at all. You just have to fix how you land the rest of the lens. And again, even then, you'll probably notice that when that patient is wearing the lens, there'll probably be a little bit of inferior decentration, a little bit of blanching. But you'll also notice probably if you actually literally pull the lids away from their lens and look at it, the blanching goes away.
Yeah. So
that's a good piece.
It
Brooke,
is.
We only have like 2 minutes, so can you overfill us?
Well, thank you. I crunch time for ICSC, and Jason, I was loving your comments about how far do we chase these microns and lenses, because for those of you who don't know, Jason is talking about the pursuit of perfection at ICSC as our keynote speaker. So we're super excited about that. For the week, Nora had her first soccer game yesterday, which was really fun.
Nice.
I have a real squishy looking cornea in the chair for me right now, so I'm going to go look at that. Because if there's, obviously we love scleral lenses first, but my second love is weird corneas, so I'm going to go look at that next. And had a super busy week. Just got back from Arizona with our all OD retreat, all Vance Thompson ODs in Arizona. We had a blast, so much fun. A
little bit of putt.
Oh, and some mini putt. Yep. Super competitive there, but it was, so we've had a good couple weeks, and we'll come back with more next week. And sorry, I missed the first half today.
So what is our call to action before we leave off this week?
I think we need more pictures like this.
It's so fun to talk about it. And these are things that you learn. Like I was just, again, like every time we have the opportunity to like analyze a pentacam together, the three of us, it's just, this is what nerds do. But to me, this is like filling my cup. I walk out and now I'm going to look at pentacams differently because of you guys.
Yeah, you missed Jamie's nerd comment.
I don't know if we had a formal call to action, but what else did we have on deck?
No, I think this is great. And it doesn't have to be a full case. You don't have to write up a whole case report of what their VAs are and their fraction. Like, just show us a map and be like, what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts? So if you have really cool maps, and we can just talk about it as a topic.
Yeah.
You missed Jamie and I's conversation about geeking out at the beginning. So you can go back and watch that later.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be sure to comment on.
Right. So call to action. Yeah. I mean, again, if you guys have mentors too that you want to appreciate, we can still take videos of you giving credit to a mentor. Again, try not to include the three of us. So we would love to have more I appreciate my mentor videos. We would love to have more cases like this. And then just anything that you want to talk about, feel free. We love sharing your emails, pictures, videos on our show. So please send more in. We need them.
Yeah. Overfilled the podcast at gmail.com. Overfilled _ the podcast on Instagram. And then we're also on Facebook.
Yep.
And send us all the things.
Awesome.
All right. And happy Wednesday, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye.
Have a good one.